I'm Josh and I've carried out an A service on this capture. As you can see, we've fitted the 5-point PPE pack to this, so we're in line with all the COVID regulations. So firstly, we're going to start off with the under bonnet check. So a good look around everything, make sure everything's secure. Coolant level's fine, just check the brake fluid. Everything that's fine. Go around, make sure everything's secure. Oil cap, coolant cap, screen wash, that will need topping up. Battery security, make sure the terminals are tight, fitted correctly, battery's not moving. I'm going to check the oil as well. Rag, clean that off, make sure there's nothing left on. That oil's fine, so that goes back in. Check on the front wall, check for any splits, also make sure they're secure. That's all done. Now we're going to do a light check of the vehicle, go through and make sure all those are working correctly. After checking the lights, it's very important also to check all the instruments in the car working, light switch, wiper switch, hazard switch, and also the clutch and the brake pedal rubbers. Sheet that we'll be following on this service today. So now the car's half up, we're going to be going around to the offside front wheel, check around all the suspension, tyre and everything. So thorough check around the outwall of the tyre to make sure there's no cuts, bulges, or if it's got any abnormal wear. So moving in, just a visual check of all the arch liners, suspension spring, anti-roll rolling. Moving up and around, everything's fine there. Also gain a good access to the rear, to the brake pipe. Everything's good there. Moving around, so check for play each side of the wheel, top and bottom, everything's fine. Move the wheel out. As you can see in there, dust boot, caliper, shock and everything's fine. That's tight. Moving around, steering gaiter, track rod end and anti-roll binding. Also while we can here, we can check a visual check on the brakes, but we will be removing those later to check them properly using the correct tools. So now we'll move around to the front, check the security of the headlights, fog lights, moving around. Another important thing, number plate, make sure it's visible and secure. All good, there's nothing hanging out the car which can obstruct or catch anyone. That light's fine and that light, so that's it. So next stage, we've got the front wheel off. I'll be measuring the disc thickness and the pad thickness. First the disc, measure that. So that's measuring dead on the minimum level. And now onto the pads. And the pads are measuring underneath the recommended level. So I'll note that down on the service sheet and on the VHC. So now I've measured all the brakes, got all their readings. I've noted the readings down on the service sheet, so we know that these discs and the pads are below the minimum. I've accessed the program, the maintenance values by ICM audiologist, cross-referenced them over, and which shows us that these are below the Renault specification. Step now, we've obviously carried out the half ramp checks. We've set the car fully up. So first we're going to be on to the tyre check. Outside wall's already been checked, as you've seen. So now we're going to go around. Firstly, on first visual inspection, there's cords showing there, so that will be noted onto the VHC and the service sheet. Spin that round, make sure there's no punctures or if it's got any tears, cracks or any bad repairs onto the tread. Moving on to the inner wall again, same thing, make sure there's no cracks. All checks to make sure the tyre is the correct size, and then also we'll be measuring the tread depths. Across all the centre. And then moving on after the tyre, now it's the underbody and engine checks. So we'll be removing the under tray off the vehicle, checking the engine mounts, gearbox mounts, checking all clips, hoses, make sure everything's fitted and located correctly, and then finally making sure there's no oil leaks or any coolant leaks on the vehicle. So now we're moving on to how to drain the oil. So firstly, obviously, remove the under tray, then we'd need a oil drainer. Secondly, then get the correct tools for the sun plug removal and the oil filter removal. So obviously now the oil would have drained out. When you're replacing the filter, replace the filter cartridge or it may be a metal filter, and obviously the seal on that. Once both of those are fitted, make sure we torque the sun plug and the oil filter to the correct manufacturer specification. Oil filter and sun plug have been torqued up, the under tray is back on. Next thing, just check program maintenance, always double check just to make sure the correct grade of oil will be going into the engine. So as we've had the wheels off the car, now go around and torque each of the wheel bolts up to their manufacturer's spec. So I've set the car down now. Lastly, I'm going to do a few extra under bonnet checks. Firstly, just check the strength of the antifreeze. And finally then, also a check to measure the moisture inside the brake fluid, which is fine. And then obviously we'll start the car up, let that settle for 10 minutes before checking the oil. So while the oil's settling, I've connected a battery charger on the car now, which will help when we're putting it on clip, and also connected the negative terminal before the sensor. So I've connected clip to the vehicle now, just going through all the information for the vehicle. If I need any other information that doesn't come up automatically, we'll access it via the ICM, which gives you a rundown of everything. So then we go in. So clip's just loading now onto the vehicle, and we'll just see now what if there is any faults detected on the vehicle. Now it shows us that faults have been detected for some certain computers. So click fault finding by computer, and we can access to see what faults there is. So click on ABS. So that's showing us some faults there. So we'll make a print out of that and also note on the job card, VH and the service sheet, and we'll go from there. Also part of the service, once obviously we've replaced the oil, we'll need to update the oil change interval. This actual car is through using obviously the stalk, so we'll go in, find service intervals and either reset A or B depending which service the vehicle's had. Waited 10 minutes while doing the battery check and the clip checks, and now it's time to check the oil level on the new oil. So make sure again, really clean dipstick, dip that in, leave it for a few minutes, for a few seconds, just to make sure we get a good reading, check, and that's bang on.